if you look at statistics, so on January 6th, that's long before the dates you're talking about, CDC issued a travel notice for Wuhan, China, a notice, before there was even a confirmed case of the virus in the United States. That's on January 6th. This is all documented because we have so much fake news. I like to document things. January 6th, long before the dates we're talking about, CDC issued travel notice to Wuhan, for Wuhan. On January 11th, we have 0 cases in the United States. 0. We don't have any cases. So there are no cases reported that we know of. This is January 11th. The CDC issued a level 1 travel notice for health, while there were still no confirmed cases. So we had 0 cases. People want me to act. I'm supposed to close down the economy, the greatest economy in the history of the world, and we don't have 1 case confirmed in the United States. That's January 11th. On January 17th, the CDC began implementing public health entry screenings at 3 major U.S. airports that received the greatest volume of passengers from Wuhan at my instructions. There was not a single case of the coronavirus in the United States. So on January 17th, there wasn't a case, and the fake news is saying, oh, he didn't act fast enough. Well, you remember what happened. Because when I did act, I was criticized by Nancy Pelosi, by Sleepy Joe Biden. I was criticized by everybody. In fact, I was called xenophobic. I was asking Biden to please define that for me. I was called other things by Democrats and some others, not too many others, actually. So that by the media, definitely. Now, on January 21st, this is long before the time we're talking, because when Tony's talking, I believe he's talking about the end of February. On January 21st, okay, still early, there was 1 case of the virus. At that time, we called it the Wuhan virus, right? Wuhan. There was 1 case in the whole United States. We had 1 case. This is all documented. It all comes from you. A lot of it comes from you people. On January 21st, the CDC activated an emergency operations center. There was just 1 case, 1 person. That's why that ad was such a phony. There was 1 person in the United States. You know, they use the ad, there's only 1 person. That statement was made at that time. 1 case in the whole United States, 1 case. I'm supposed to shut down the government, the biggest economy in the history of the world. Shut it down. We have 1 case. 7 cases were on January 31st. Now, on January 21st, there was a case. Not 1 person had died. You heard that, Steve, right? Not 1 person. So we have this massive country, the United States of America. We have the greatest economy in the world, bigger than China's by a lot, right? Because of what we've done over the last 3.5 years, prior to the virus, but including the virus. So we have the biggest economy, the greatest economy we've ever had, the highest employment numbers, the best employment numbers, best unemployment numbers also, the best of everything. So on January 31st, think of it, not 1 person has died. Not 1. Nobody died. Not 1, John. I don't think you'll find any. This is reported by CDC, confirmed by the news, which doesn't mean anything to me because they don't tell the truth. But CDC reported January 31st, not 1 person has died, and I issued a travel restriction from China. Think of it. So nobody died, and I issued. You can't get earlier than that. So we have nobody died, and I said, China, you can't come in. I'm sorry. Because I saw what was going on. It wasn't so much what I was told. It was that I saw what was going on, and I didn't like it. But I didn't speak to Tony about it, didn't speak to very many people about it. I didn't like it. So what did I do? Ready? January 31st, in the United States, not 1 person had died because of the Wuhan virus. So I issued travel restrictions on that date, even though nobody died, and I got brutalized over it by the press because I was way too early. I shouldn't have done it. Brutalized by the press. But, you know, sort of I've been brutalized for the last 4 years. I used to do well before I decided to run for politics. But I guess I'm doing okay because, to the best of my knowledge, I'm the president of the United States, despite the things that are said. So then, first mandatory quarantine in more than 50 years, we did. First mandatory in 50 years. The same restrictions that the Democrats and the media called xenophobic. Now, Joe Biden said he's a racist. He called me a racist because I said we're shutting down entry from China. We're shutting it down. He called me xenophobic and he called me a racist and other things. Since then, on a Friday night 2 weeks ago, Joe Biden issued a statement. It wasn't him. He didn't write it. I'm sure he doesn't even know that it was issued. But the people from his campaign, who are smart, people that write these little PR releases are pretty smart, reasonably good. Not the best, but they're not bad. But they issued a statement saying that Joe Biden agrees that that President Trump was right to close it down to China. Now, he did that. Now, he issued it on a Friday night. We've all heard about that, John, Friday nights, right? In fact, his was later Friday night than I ever released mine on Friday nights, okay? So he did it pretty late. I mean, like at 11 o'clock in the evening or something. It's pretty late. Anyway, so Joe Biden issued, and it's one of those things. But in February, Nancy Pelosi said we should come to Chinatown. This is late February. Come to Chinatown. We think it's very safe. Come here. Let's all have the big parade, Chinatown parade, probably referring to San Francisco. And that's it. But I took this action early. And so the story in the New York Times was a total fake. It's a fake newspaper, and they write fake stories. And someday, hopefully in 5 years when I'm not here, those papers are all going out of business because nobody's going to want to read them. But now they like them because they write about me. Now, with that, I have a couple of we have a few clips that we're just going to put up. We could turn the lights a little bit lower. I think you'll find them interesting. And then we'll answer some questions. I'll ask you some questions because you're so guilty, but forget it. But most importantly, we're going to get back onto the reason we're here, which is the success we're having. Okay? Please, you could put it on. Thank you.
People should be more concerned right now with the flu in this country.
A lot of people are concerned about the coronavirus because they're hearing a lot of news about it right now. But the reality is, comparing it to the flu, for example, it's not even close to being at that stage.
What if it is worse? Is this a moment where maybe countries put politics aside, a little bit of pride aside, and do we have U.S. officials, should U.S. professionals such as yourself get involved?
How worried should Americans be about coronavirus?
Coronavirus is not going to cause a major issue in the United States.
Well, we've asked them to accelerate whatever they're doing in terms of a vaccine. We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Medicare patients can now visit any doctor by phone or video conference at no additional cost.
The first 1 million masks will be available immediately.
As there were more cases, and it was clear that it was spreading out of China, where it originated, the president took this move that he was widely criticized for by Democrats and even some Republicans at the time, which was he halted a number of flights from China into the U.S. The idea was to halt the spread of the disease, keep transmissions to a minimum. He was accused of xenophobia. He was accused of making a racist move. At the end of the day, it was probably effective because it did actually take a pretty aggressive measure against the spread of the virus.
His team is on it. They've been responsive late at night, early in the morning, and they've thus far been doing everything that they can do, and I want to say thank you, and I want to say that I appreciate it.
He returns calls. He reaches out. He's been proactive. We got that Mercy ship down here in Los Angeles. That was directly because he sent it down here. 2,000 medical units came to the state of California, these FMS, these field medical stations, and that's been very, very helpful.
The president has been outstanding through all this. The vice president's been outstanding. Members of the coronavirus task force, very responsive.
We had asked if we could have, New Jersey could have access to a piece of the beds that are on the USNS Comfort, and the president came back, called me a short few minutes before I walked in here to say indeed they would grant that to New Jersey. So that's a big step for us in addition to all the other capacity. That news is literally hot off the press, and I thank the president and vice president who are on the call together.
President Trump approved Arizona's request for a presidential major disaster declaration. I want to thank the president for a quick turnaround. We requested this on a Wednesday, and we had approval by Saturday morning. And we are grateful to the administration for their continued support and responsiveness.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the president and the vice president for doing a really good job of communicating with all the governors.
So we could give you hundreds of clips like that from governors, including Democratic, or Democrat as I call them, governors, which is actually the correct term. We could give you hundreds of clips just like that. We have them. We didn't want this to go on too long, but I just want to say it's, it's very sad when people write false stories like, in that case, I guess it was gotten mostly from the New York Times, which is a highly, if you had libel laws, they would have been out of business even before they'll end up going out of business. So it's too bad. But we could have given, you saw the statements. We have hundreds of statements, including from Democrats and Democrat governors. And if you look, they were all saying, we need ventilators, you don't hear ventilators anymore. They have all the ventilators they need, which we were right about. We said, you're asking for too many, you don't need that. And in all fairness, these two people right here, Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci, they said, I don't think they need that many ventilators. I said, I agree. At one point, and I'm not knocking New York for this, but they were asking, you remember, 40,000 ventilators. And that's more than they have all over the country. And we got them a lot of ventilators, and nobody's complained. We got them, as you know, beautiful. We built hospital rooms all over the country. The governor of Louisiana, John Bel Edwards, was very nice. He said, you know what, you don't have to build a second hospital, because good news is happening. They're not able to fill the beds. They needed 2 hospitals. We built one. It was perfect. We're just starting the other. I called him up. I said, you think we should build the second one? I don't think you're going to need it. He said, let me get back. He got back. We didn't need it. With Governor Cuomo, in all good spirit and faith, he wanted to have the Jacob Javits Center done. And we built 2,900 incredible beds, incredible. Then we made it COVID, or to be exactly accurate, COVID-19, and which was a lot of work. We had to change the ductwork. We had to seal up certain areas. We had to put areas of rooftop things over the beds. We did a lot of work, and we had it, but they never really had too much use for it. And they called also, Mayor de Blasio, rightfully he called, he said, would it be possible to get more medical help? So now not only are we building facilities, they're asking us for help because they're unable to man it. And we got him the help. We got Mayor de Blasio a lot of help. Then when the Javits Center wasn't used much, and then, as you know, the Mercy, we took the Mercy and we took the Comfort, and we made them, both Los Angeles and New York, we made them COVID adaptable, which was not easy to do. And we didn't get almost any people sent there. They didn't need them at the beginning because they didn't need it for anything but this, because there were fewer accidents, fewer motorcycles, fewer everything. And what we did was like an incredible job, but they didn't need them. It turned out they were there. We were ready. You know the expression, they have an expression, ready, willing, and able. We were ready, willing, and able. What the Army Corps of Engineers did was a miracle. What FEMA did was a miracle. What the doctors did. So I got a call 2 days ago from the mayor of New York. He said, could you help us even more with medical personnel? And we sent, I think it was 448 doctors, nurses, and respiratory experts, real experts. And I got a call from the mayor, and he said, I want to tell you, incredible, these people are incredible. He said they lifted the spirits of the hospital workers from New York City like nothing I've ever seen. He was unbelievable. What he said was really appreciated, and I let them know that. I let the military people. He said they went in there so brave, so incredible. They lifted the spirits of everybody. We did all of this work, but when you read the phony stories, nobody acknowledges this, and it doesn't have to be acknowledged from my standpoint, but it does have to be acknowledged from the great work that these doctors, nurses, the Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, all these people, they've done this incredible job. And they shouldn't be abused because you take a look at what's happened. Nobody's asking for ventilators, except outside of our country. Outside of our country, they're calling me, every country, they're calling me so many countries, and I'm going to try and help them because we have thousands of ventilators being built. But nobody's asking for ventilators. Nobody's asking for beds because we built hospitals. I think we built 20,000 beds in a period of a couple of weeks. The job they've done is incredible. With all of that being said, I'm getting along very well with the governors. And if I wouldn't, Mike Pence had a call today with the governors, and it was like a 10. I said, how was it? He said, it's a 10. He used one of my expressions, actually. But he said it was like a 10. And I'm sure you people were probably on the call, although you weren't supposed to be. But you were sitting in somebody's office listening to it, because every time we have these, and you would know that for weeks those calls have been very good. But there wasn't a raised voice. There wasn't even a statement of like, we think you should do this or that. I heard it was like just a perfect phone call. It might not be reported that way. They'll say, I thought that somebody maybe slightly raised, didn't even raise a voice. My only point of saying this, because I want to get back to why we're here. The press has not treated these incredible people who've done such a great job. They haven't treated them fairly. They're way off. We were way ahead of schedule. And remember this, because the Times story was a fake, but remember this, everything we did, I was criticized because I was too early. If I waited longer, it would have been, you would have been criticized. If I went way early, if I went 3 months earlier, I would have been criticized for being way too early. So with all of that being said, we understand it. I think I've educated a lot of people as to the press. And I would love to be able to say that we have a very honest press. Honestly, John, there'd be nothing I would be more proud of if the press would work. And I don't mind being criticized, but not when they're wrong. Not when people have done a great job. Yes?
Can I ask you about the video? Because I've never seen a video like that played in this room. It looks a bit like a campaign ad. Who produced that video for you?
That was done by a group in the office, and it was done we just put some clips together. I could give you, I'll bet you I have over 100 more clips, even better than them. They were just pieced together over the last 2 hours. That was just, we have far better than that. That's nothing compared to some of them.
This was produced here in the White House.
Yeah, this was done by Dan and a group of people, and they just put it together in a period of probably less than 2 hours.
Why did you feel need to do that?
Because we're getting fake news, and I like to have it corrected. They're saying what a great job we're doing, and the media, these are the governors of California, governor of New Jersey, governor of New York. Look, in New York, we work very close with Andrew. In New York, ventilators were going to be a problem. They didn't have a problem. We got them tremendous numbers of thousands, but we got them tremendous number of ventilators. You don't hear ventilators are a problem. Beds were going to be a problem. I mean, I'm happy about it. The Javits Center, which is incredible, is almost empty because they don't need them. That's good news, not bad news. I'm not saying, gee, I wish more people were there. I don't want more people there. We brought in the boat. We brought in the Comfort. And the Comfort was originally not supposed to be for this at all. The coronavirus, we're not supposed to be for that at all. They called, they said, could we have it? That was a number of weeks ago. We said, we don't think you need it, but if you need it, we'll do it. Then they said, could you get the medical personnel to run the Javits Center? Could you get the medical personnel to run the ship? We said, if it's necessary, we will, and we did. There were military personnel. That's the ones that Mayor de Blasio was so great to in terms of his statements. I mean, I really appreciated his statements. He was so impressed with them, and I am too. The level of genius and bravery, they're great people, the military people. And we pieced that together. I would say it took less than 2 hours. It was done in-house, Steve.
But just to be clear, this was produced by government employees, by people here at the White House, this campaign-style video
I wouldn't use the
here.
word produced. All they did was took some clips, and they just ran them for you. And the reason they did is to keep you honest. Now, I don't think that's going to work. It's not going to have any impact. But just think of it. You heard the clips. You heard what I said. They said, I acted late on closing down the country. Some people wish we never closed it down. Now, if we didn't, we would have lost hundreds of thousands of people. You know, interestingly, so I'm against it. We did the right thing. Everything we did was right. If we would have closed down...
mistakes along the way here? You think everything you did was right?
Well, look, governors should have had ventilators. They chose not to have them. We were able to get them ventilators. You haven't heard, other than, you know, there was a lot of panic, a lot of screaming. We want ventilators. They got the ventilators. You don't have that anymore. And the surge is supposed to be coming now. And if they do need ventilators, John, we've got almost 10,000 that are ready to rock. We have people standing with those ventilators right now. If you needed 2,000 in New York, which you don't, but if you did, we can have them here in less than 24 hours. We're ready to rock. This was a great military and beyond that operation. Let's get back to the regular. Well, shouldn't we get back to the regular? We can talk about this, but all I'm doing is this. I could have given you, like those are 4 or 5 clips that we just played for you. I could have given you hundreds of people. I mean, Gavin was on television 2 days ago with one of your competitors singing praise. He says, look, you know, the question was asked in a negative way. He said, look, I know what you want to say, but he's been really good. It's hard for me to say that. In fact, it's impossible for me to say it. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. I have many clips from I have some clips from Anthony that I didn't want to put up, which were really good. I think Anthony would be the first one to say, when I closed the country to China, when I closed the China ban, whatever you want to call it, Anthony said I saved a lot of lives by doing that. I mean, am I correct? I don't want to put words in Anthony's mouth, by the way, and I like him. Today I walk in, I hear I'm going to fire him. I'm not firing him. I think he's a wonderful guy.
Tweet something that said fire Fauci.
Why did you fire Fauci?
I retweeted somebody. I don't know. They said fire. Doesn't matter.
Did you notice that when you retweeted it?
Yeah, I noticed everything.
So you retweeted it even though it said time to fire
No,
Fauci?
no, that's somebody's opinion. All that is an opinion.
And you elevated
No,
it.
I was called about that. I said, I'm not firing. In fact, if you ask your friends in the office, in the public relations office, I was immediately called upon that. And I said, no, I like him. I think he's terrific because this was a person's view. Not everybody's happy with Anthony. Not everybody's happy with everybody. But I will tell you, we have done a job the likes of which nobody's ever done. The mobilization, getting of equipment, all of the things we've done. Nobody's ever done a job like this. We have 50 governors and territories, by the way. People don't ever mention that. We have territories. We have 50 governors and territories. And many of those governors are Democrats, and they can't find anything to complain about. And honestly, many of them didn't do their jobs. I'll let you know someday. Let's see what happens. But I may let you know who's not doing their job. I can tell you the ones that are good, both Republican and Democrat, and the ones who don't know what they're doing. But we help some of the ones that don't know what they're doing. They should have had their own stockpiles. And now, if they want, we can build them stockpiles of ventilators. The hardest thing is a ventilator because it's expensive. It takes a while to get. We got them, and nobody believed we did. Now, many of the governors were asking for far too many, and we said they were asking for far too many. We talked, and we said, you said very strongly that they just don't need that many. You said they don't need that many beds, Deborah. So that's it. Steve, go ahead.
You and Dr. Fauci are on the same page.
Yeah, we have been from the beginning. I don't know what it is exactly. But if I put somebody's opinion up, you know, I don't mind controversy. I think controversy is a good thing, not a bad thing. But I want it to be honest controversy. Now, when I got a call not very quickly, and nobody, you know, saw that as being any big deal. They said, how are you doing with Dr. Fauci? I said, I'm doing great. And I didn't talk to Dr. Fauci even until we just got here. Dr. Fauci asked one of the people if he could get up and speak. And he did. And they totally misinterpreted him. I saw what they did.
Can I ask you, he said the question was hypothetical, but what he was just acknowledging is that lives would have been saved if the mitigation practices were put into place earlier. That seems obvious. Do you not agree with that?
Here's the thing. Now, what he really is saying, though, but how could you have done it? Look, I just went over stats with you, right here. How do you close it up? You have no deaths and no cases on January 11th. Doctor, would you recommend closing the United States of America oh, this must be terrible. How many cases do we have? None. How many deaths do we have? None. January 17th, go back another week. On January 17th, this is 10 days before I did a little bit less than 10 days, before I did the ban. I did a ban on China. You think that was easy? I then did a ban on Europe. And a lot of people said that was an incredible thing to do because you look at Spain, and by the way, we're doing very well because when you look at all of those flat graphs and you add it all up, the United States is very low, and per capita we're very low. We're doing very well. But how do you close up the United States of America? So on January 6th, no deaths. On January 11th, no deaths. And no cases. On January 17th, no cases, no deaths. I'm supposed to close up the United States of America when I have no cases.
You didn't close it down until the middle of March. Should you have closed it down earlier?
I closed down
That's the question.
from
It's not
China.
about January.
Excuse me. I closed it down from China. And by the way, some people think I should have waited longer and maybe ridden it out. I disagree with them, okay? But it was thought of. I mean, that was an alternative. You know, there are a lot of people that would have said, let's write it out. Now, I'll give you the good news. If I would have done that, it would have been, I think, catastrophic. Because their numbers are, Anthony, 1.6 to 2.2 million people would have died if we tried to do that. And I did this last time. Cut it in half. Don't say 2.2 million. Cut it in more than half. Say 1 million people died. Well, that's much more than the Civil War. Cut it in half. Take the million and cut it in half. That's 500,000 people would have died. Now, that number we would have reached, okay? That would have been easy to reach if we did nothing. So we did the right thing, and our timing was very good. But here's the one thing, and you have to say this. When you ask me, why didn't you do this? How come when I did the ban on China and instituted some very tough things, how come Nancy Pelosi, a month later, is in Chinatown saying, let's all march, this is not going to happen? How come we have many of the experts from CNN and many other networks, if you call CNN a network, I don't personally, but we have CNN, we have many other places, and they're all saying, he doesn't need to do it. He doesn't need to do it. All I'm saying is this, how do you close down the greatest economy in the history of the world when on January 17th you have no cases and no death? When on January 21st you have one case and no death. One case, think of that. Now we're supposed to close down the country, but here's what happened. When on January 31st I instituted the ban, Joe Biden went crazy. He said, you don't need the ban. He didn't go crazy. Like he didn't even know what the hell the ban was. But so he didn't go crazy. But he did say, he did call me xenophobic. Wait a minute. He called me xenophobic. He called me a racist because he has since apologized and he said I did the right thing. So when you say, why didn't you this? Every Democrat thought I made a mistake when I did it. I saved tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives by putting it.
That you bought, the argument is that you bought yourself some time and you didn't use it to prepare hospitals, you didn't use it to ramp up testing. Right now,
you're so disgraceful. It's so disgraceful the way you say that. Let me just, listen, I just went over it. I just went over it.
In an unprecedented crisis.
Nobody thought we should do it. And when I did it.
But what did you do with the time that you bought?
You know
the
we
month
did?
of February. That
we
video
did?
was a gap.
What do you do?
Month of February.
What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States?
You had cases
when
in February.
excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th.
January, February, the entire
January.
month of
I said in
January. Your video
January.
has a complete gap.
On
Month of
January
February.
30th.
What did your administration do in February with the time that your travel ban bought
A lot.
What?
A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3. And when you ask me that question, let me ask you this: Why did Biden apologize? Why did he write a letter of apology? No, that's very important. Why did the Democrats think that I acted too quickly? You know why? Because they really thought that I acted too quickly. We have done a great job. Now, I could have kept it open, and I could have done what some countries are doing. They're getting beat up pretty badly. I could have kept it open. I thought of keeping it open because nobody's ever heard of closing down a country, let alone the United States of America. But if I would have done that, we would have had hundreds of thousands of people that would right now be dead. We've done this right, and we really have done this right. The problem is the press doesn't cover it the way it should be. Go ahead. One more question, Steve. Go ahead.
There's a debate over what authority you have to order the country reopened. What authority do you have?
Well, I have the ultimate authority, but we're going to get into that in a minute. We're going to just finish this up. We're going to tell you about other things that we've done right. But I will say this. Had we said, let's just keep going and let's not do a closing, whether it's 2.2 that they at one point predicted as an outside or 1.6 at a lower number, you cut it all the way down to 6 or 7 or 800,000, take just a fraction of the number that could have happened, it literally would have been more than the Civil War. It would have been a disaster. So the minimum number was 100,000, and I feel pretty good that we're going to be substantially below, Anthony, the 100,000, and I hope we will.